Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. Earlier on in the news, we discussed the story concerning former CBN Governor Sanusi Sanusi, who actually has said that he would not be helping the current administration of President Bola Tinubu, whose latest policies have indeed rained hardship on Nigerians. Well, joining me now to discuss this is public affairs analyst Dotun Ojon. Thank you for being here. Let's take a look at this very interesting conversation. First off, how can the Tinubu administration improve its communication strategy to actually effectively convey its economic policies to Nigerians, especially looking at the fact that the Emir has come out to say that the policies, yes, it may seem good, but it's not being implemented effectively and it's also not being communicated. Let's focus on that aspect of communication first.
Okay, good morning and thank you for having me. There were a lot of things to actually talk about from the communication or the lecture of the Emir. And since you're starting with communication, let me make it very clear that the question of having people to communicate properly that the Emir brought up is not actually a question of whether we don't have people of integrity in the government. It's about the fact that believability has always been a question between the government and the governed in Nigeria. And when you come with a communication mindset of what I call imperialistic communication model, that communication model, I developed it, is just about saying this is what I want to do. And there's nothing anybody can do about that. And that seems to be the style of the president, even before he came to power, because he said, you remember I talked about, I'm going to remove subsidy when we get there. And if you like, go to the street protest. There's nothing we will do about that. We are going to remove it. That's a bit an emperor kind of statement. And that can only happen because it actually works in another area. That kind of communication model also works in another area where you have a fine line that is connecting leadership to followership. Not in our own case where you have a gap bridge that is dividing leadership and followership. And that is believability. So when I expect that, because when you open the dictionary, you see that language is very, very important. It's a code of communication. That is to tell you that each community has different code of communication. In our own place, leadership must understand the communication code for the Nigerian people. And this is to say that you cannot appear to be living in opulence, for example, and expect the people to actually be, and expect the people to continue to live in abject poverty. So these are some of the things that I think the government needs to work on as the mission.
All right, let's look at the response that was indeed given to the Emir. How effective do you think the federal government's response was to him? Talking about the fact that he is not needed, nor his contributions are not either welcomed. And then they also mentioned the need for him to be more constructive rather than become a bit partisan in this aspect. What's your take on that?
Okay, I think from the conversation, he actually talked about, we are going to, I have seen them as a friend. They are my friend, but they haven't seen me as a friend. I think that's coming out from the place of, I have offered advice in time past and maybe under the curtain or behind the curtain, and the government did not do anything. That's just my interpretation of it. So it can get to a point where you can genuinely be concerned for your country and you just want to speak, you just want to tell the people that, this is how to do things better. And mind you, it's not even talking about the policy. Is particularly heavy on how the policy is being communicated across to the people. So all of these things that we are saying, remove fuel subsidy, liberalization of the Naira, maybe there will have been a better engagement that will have happened. And that better engagement, in my opinion, will have led to having an understanding that, see, you can't do these two major things at the same time. Everybody, perhaps maybe 90% of those people who ran for office at that point in time in 2023, had said that when they become president, they were going to remove fuel subsidy. So maybe when we have an agreement of removal of subsidy, further conversation will have led to the fact that, we cannot remove fuel subsidy and liberalize the market at the same time. This is the place of communication, and I think it's really very lacking. See, when you understand your community very well, you will know that some steps that are taken in other places, when you take it here, it may not work. For example, you import a vehicle of 30 million naira to Nigeria, for example, and your local mechanic is advising you that, oh, you need to remove this thermostat. That if you don't remove the thermostat that you have brought it to Nigeria, means that it's not going to work well. That is understanding the local content and the local reality. And if you cannot understand the local reality, if you do not continue to engage with the people. So beyond the question of, oh, they've done this right, they've done this wrong, it's also the place of constant engagement, which I know, which is what the Emir may be talking about. He said it that they are friends, but they have not. In fact, we cannot continue to lay emphasis on the role that President Tinubu played himself before the Emir became the Emir in the first tenure, if you allow me to use that political language, before he came back. It shows that they are friends. But I cannot continue to engage my friend and telling them that, oh, this is the right thing to do, and they go left. It could get to a point where I get tired of the whole thing, which is what I see playing out. And I've said it before, Nigeria will only move forward when, or Africa as a whole, when we stop seeing opposition as enmity. That somebody has come out to give you advice does not mean that the person hates your government. We have been on this for a while, and we've continued to engage the government. So don't take him as an enemy. Please see sense from what he has. In fact, that's what any sensible man will do. Oh, you have criticized me in this area. Let me see how I can improve. As we speak now, it seems that it is only the government that understands 100% the outcome of their economic policy. And you cannot continue to drive the people who do not have a knowledge of what you are doing for them. You are going to kill them at the end of the day if you do not share the knowledge of where you are taking them to. And I think that's very important.
Well, very, very important. The Emir also had a lot to say, like you rightly mentioned in that speech. But let me bring you into this other aspect of the conversation. Still looking at the president's policies, especially this current administration. There seems to be the need for giving out cash to poor Nigerians in terms of ensuring that it could help in social services, if you put it that way, an aspect of ensuring that Nigerians can be able, the poor, the poorest, would be able to sustain themselves. What do you say about this aspect of ensuring that Nigerians can sustain themselves and the federal government using different methods to dole out cash to the poor Nigerians?
Okay, so the psychology of poverty really had made it very clear that you cannot actually take anybody out of poverty without their consent. What that means is that I do not also want a situation where the country continues to build irresponsible people. I have seen it firsthand in the Niger Delta area when this issue of giving money to the people in form of empowerment. See, there was a governor in my state, Ondo. His name is Olusegun Mimiko. He was governor. At a point in time, because he believed that doling out money is part of welfareism, of course, it's a mindset. So, and I know a guy very close to us. He went to all the poly units and started giving out money. At the time I'm talking about, I'm not sure I've ever done anything that fetched me 100,000. But he gave as high as 250,000 to people. But in a matter of weeks, they've returned to their poverty. Why? Because there was absence of inspirational leadership that could take them to a place where they will hate poverty and they will be willing to work out. So that has consistently shown in Nigeria that doling out money to people has not helped them in any way. You can see it election to election. Oh, the Bokin Sebe, or that means that once I vote, I'm going to cook a pot of soup. And they keep giving out money to people to even cast ballots. And at the end of the day, the people gradually, if you allow me to use the word, return to their poverty. So every economic, it doesn't make economic sense to me because I experienced it firsthand in the Niger Delta. I could turn right and turn left and mention 2 or 3 of my brothers who have been beneficiary of government handouts, who have returned to their poverty. So instead of doing that, I think we should be deliberate in our leadership style. And because even when you talk about the poorest of the poor, in my own community, it's an Nigerian community in Ondo State where a lot of people live in abject poverty. I can count the number of people who have account number. So when government comes out to say, oh, we are actually sending money to people, in my head, I'm like, oh, Does Mama Kemi have an account number? The answer is no, because these are the people that you know firsthand that are poor people, and you have made an attempt to give them money in time past that they run to POS operators to say, oh, I'm going to send the account number of a POS operator. So there's been a huge disconnect between the reality or the realism of the government wanting to send money always to people, and the reality that these poorest of the poor that I do know do not even have access to bank.
All right,
the
Mr. Dr.
banking
John.
sector in Nigeria today has not captured up to 60% of the Nigerian population.
All right,
so
Mr.
there are
Dr. John.
questions about giving money to people and the deliberate investment that is needed to bring them out of poverty. There's always this gap between them.
I'm afraid we've run out of time, but thank you so much for highlighting and also sharing your thoughts on these aspects, especially looking at the fact that social intervention programs and the cost of inflation is indeed impacting very, very hard on Nigerians. Thanks for your time, Mr. Dr. John. Thanks for joining us this morning on News Now. Thank you.